What is going on, everyone? Wanted to jump in today. I know it's a late day getting in here and giving you a quick Facebook Live, but I wanted to talk a little bit again about your skills assessment. And today's going to be quick because I want to talk about questions. And a lot of us, and I've seen this, where the student, the candidate, wants to ask questions, and there's different questions you can ask, but I think some of them are sort of resistant, right? They're resistant when you're asking the question. You're resistant to the actual skill process and the exam process. So let me go ahead and kind of break it down between like an honest question and one that might be more resistant, come off resistant to the evaluator. So I encourage you to go ahead and ask questions that are honest, right? So an example would be, let's say you have some questions about the equipment that are in front of you. You're not quite sure what it is, how you should use it. You've never seen it before. That's sort of an honest question. You want to ask about that piece of equipment, right? And know that it's there. Now, if you don't see equipment that you might anticipate that you might need during the skill, then you might say, do you want me to verbalize, right? What skills do you want me to go ahead and verbalize based on the fact that you don't see the equipment there? So for instance, you're doing a trauma scenario, and you're getting ready to perform the scenario. You look down, you don't see a lot of bandage supplies. You don't see a lot of ways to occlusive dressings, for instance, right? So you might want to go and ask the proctor, do you want me to just verbalize these things if I need to do something with a bandaging, or if I have to do an occlusive dressing, do you want me to just go ahead and verbalize that, right? That's an honest question about how they might want you to go ahead and conduct the skill, right? Especially if it's not there. I've been in many, many skill stations where not all the equipment's there that you might need on that particular scenario that you're being presented with, right? So if that's the case, just kind of get in your head that when you're looking at the equipment in front of you, if you don't see something that's kind of common you might see on a skills exam, go ahead and ask if you should go ahead and verbalize that skill. The other thing is, that's sort of an honest question too, is that you want to kind of, something that I would try to encourage people, okay, when you see the victim there, now a lot of times it's just a mannequin. If it's just a mannequin, that's great. But if it's an actual victim that can speak to you, right, and maybe it's going to be a conscious victim, you want to go in and say, do you want me to ask you the questions, or do you want me to direct the questions directly to the victim? It's a general question. It's a short question, but it doesn't have to be a big conversation with what has to be done, right? But it's a way for you to kind of just know off the top of your head who you're asking the question to, right? Because a lot of times the victim themselves might be instructed to just moan a little bit, or just to, kind of give you an indication that they're having some kind of a pain, or that they can't breathe, stuff like that. But actual questions about history, further pain, things like that, the instructor might be the one who's going to answer that question for you. So it's a general question, but it's good to go ahead and ask that because it's a helpful question. It's an honest question. Now, I talk about the resistant question, and that some instructors might kind of get a little put off by, is when people walk into the skill station and they start with things like, well, the way that I learned it is like this, and my instructor told me that when I was doing the skill, I should do it this way, or that I should say transport and the transport time, but then I should go ahead and repeat that later. Listen, a lot of times you might feel yourself doing that. You might even hear people doing that. And these are people that are being resistant to the testing process. All right. So try not to do that. A lot of times students try to kind of glean information from the instructor before they even start, right? And they kind of set themselves up and set the instructor up for them to say, well, I'm confused and I need you to explain it to me. This is type of thing where you're really doing it because it's based on fear, anxiety, right? And they're looking for some sort of feedback. But the problem is that the instructor, at that point, you are on your final exam, your skills exam. The instructor can't give you that type of feedback, right? They're not supposed to give you feedback and give you any kind of an edge like that. So a lot of times they'll say, I'm sorry, But that's the kind of question you should have asked and had answered for you before you came to the actual skill station, so they can't answer it for you at that point. All right. So just some things to think about when it comes to questions that you might be thinking of doing when you are doing your skill stations, right? And try to avoid falling in a trap of asking questions that come off as being resistant to the testing process. All right, nothing wrong with asking honest questions, like I mentioned, but don't start trying to throw off the instructor or make excuses for why you may not or be able to do a skill or understand the actual skill, or how you might go off the beaten path when it comes to the skill sheets and what's expected of you. So I hope this makes some sense, guys. Again, this is a quick video, about 5 minutes. Wanted to jump on here and cover this element because I've been getting a lot of emails and seeing a lot of Facebook comments regarding how to take practical skills exams. And a lot of people looking for scenarios and things like that. But you know what? You don't need to know the scenarios. If you know the skill, you know the skill sheets, you know your patient assessments, you don't need a scenario because it'll keep you on track and keep you on a path to success on that skill. Hope that helps, guys. Don't forget, go to EMS2022.com. Get yourself a membership as a responder there. It's 100% free. A lot more study and review content there waiting for you. All right, that's it, guys. As always, I am Jim Hoffman from EMSSEO.com. Stay safe.